Oi galera! Hello everyone! So a couple days ago I posted a video which I titled Como Aprendi Português, How I Learned Portuguese. And today I wanted to explain to my English speakers, my American viewers, just how I was able to become so fluent in Portuguese. Well, when I was 15 years old, to begin the story, my mom moved us from Georgia, Columbus, Georgia, to a small city in South Florida called Weston, which has the nickname of West Venezuela, just because there are so many Venezuelans that live there. And in 2002, when we moved there, Chavez had just taken over Venezuela, and things were starting to get pretty bad. Not like they are today, of course. It wasn't a failed state yet, but they were starting to get bad. So Venezuelans were flocking to South Florida, particularly this neighborhood or this small city called Weston. And many Colombians were also going in large numbers to South Florida as well, also to the city that I lived in called Weston. So when I got there, my first week of school in my new high school was horrible. Looking back, it's funny. I can laugh at it, but at the time I was completely traumatized. And I think I cried almost every day for the first month just because, oh my God, Mom, where did you move me to? Nobody speaks English. Everybody is speaking in Spanish. Not one person speaks in English. I'm sure I was being dramatic. There was, of course, a few Americans that spoke English. But for the most part, I was so distraught because even though the teachers were mostly American and teaching classes in English, all of my fellow students around me in the classroom were speaking in Spanish. So it was almost impossible to make friends. Well, there was one girl named Mariana who, within a few weeks in my American history class, actually, no, it was your world history. After a few weeks in my world history class, she turned around and introduced herself. Super friendly. It turns out she had moved from Sao Paulo, Brazil, to Weston, Florida when she was around 11 years old or 12 years old. Oh my goodness, she was the friendliest, coolest person ever. And she introduced me to some of her other Brazilian friends in high school. They were also super nice. And they were the few people that seemed to like me for the person I was. They didn't care that I didn't speak Portuguese. They didn't care that I didn't speak Spanish. They just thought I was cool, and we all clicked, so we became friends. Anyways, due to her friendship, I ended up becoming more and more interested in Brazilian culture, and I loved the Portuguese language. I noticed that she'd be speaking to another friend, I believe his name was Diego, in our class at the time, and I realized there was a very big difference with the sound that they spoke in Portuguese than all of the Spanish speakers I heard around me. So I went from hating Spanish, just because I couldn't understand, to loving the Portuguese language. They're extremely similar. There are like 85% similarities between the two, but it's still different enough for many Brazilians or other Spanish speakers not to understand the other. Anyways, going forward, once winter break came around, I decided I'm obsessed with Portuguese. I really love Brazilian culture. I want to learn more. And I went and searched on Google. I think that was the search engine at the time, or whatever it was in 2002. And I searched nonstop every single day over my winter break to find a way to move to Brazil. I was like, I know I'm only 15, but I've got to find a way to make this work. That's when I found an agency called AFS, which stands for American Field Service, and I found out that they had a program that allowed high schoolers from around the world to go to a country of their choice and live with the host family and learn that language, and that was all I needed. They accepted Americans ages 15 to 18, 19, and you could do a 1 semester stay to a 1 year stay, and my mom thought this was a little crazy when I first brought it up to her, like, no, you're in high school, you're not leaving the country, you're not going to live with some random family that we don't know. But once I explained to her I could learn Portuguese, and there's a lot of Brazilians in South Florida, I'd get a good job, after school, I'd make more money than Americans that were only monolingual. She jumped on board and said it was a great idea and that she would have loved to have done it as well when she was my age. So anyways, I also convinced her that if it was easier to learn Spanish once I knew Portuguese, which it was much easier to learn Spanish once I spoke Portuguese. And also, from one semester to 1 year, I said I really need to spend the year because that's the only way I was going to truly understand Brazilian culture and learn Portuguese, which I believe that was true. And also, it was only $1,000 or $2,000 more at the time for the year program compared to the semester program. The semester program was already really expensive, however expensive is when you're 16, 15 years old. And I was able to convince my mom that it made more sense for me to spend that extra $1,000, $2,000 for the full year. And she was on board with that as well, of course. My mom's awesome. So after that, I filled out my application. I went and got all the medical documents I needed, applied for my visa, sent in all the paperwork, all the references I needed from my teachers, from my mom. My mom also had to write a paper saying I was a great candidate, very independent, loved other cultures, and she thought I'd be a good fit as an exchange student in Brazil. Sent that all in, and yeah, in August of 2003, I boarded a plane. A little worried at what I got myself into, but still brave enough and so excited to be living the dream of my year abroad in Brazil. I was with other American exchange students too. I arrived in Sao Paulo for an orientation that lasted, I believe it was 2 to 3 days, if I remember correctly. And yep, that started I would like to say my new life chapter, but it was more like my new book. I literally became a Brazilian. My new life as a Brazilian gringa, I suppose. And yeah, so that's the background for me of how I learned Portuguese. And I want you, if you are interested in learning Portuguese from me as an American, or if you know any other Brazilians that are struggling with English, please have them subscribe to my channel. You subscribe to my channel. I really look forward to teaching you as much about Brazilian culture and language as I possibly can. Super passionate about it. Super passionate about teaching English, especially to Brazilians, since that's my niche. And speaking Portuguese, I can help them more than, say, a Chinese speaker, which I don't speak Chinese. But anyways, thank you so much for your time. Subscribe and watch my new future videos that are to come on more ways to improve your Portuguese and understand Brazilian culture. Until then, tchauzinho. Bye, everybody.